Hello everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a really quick video. I am a wizard, as you can tell from my wizard hat and my wand, okay? And I'm here today to talk about how I'm doing in my OWLS. So I chose the career last time, I'll link the video down below. I chose my career, which is to be a magical librarian, which though I'd be really excited about being a librarian,
Why do you have a hat?
Because
Because you want to be a wizard?
don't look at me. I'm disgusting. Don't judge me. I don't need your judgment. No. As I was saying, I've decided to become a librarian, a magical librarian, which is a bit like being a muggle librarian, but it's way cooler. It's like the Indiana Jones of librarians. We have very important things to do. We have to go around the world and find very important books and steal them from various creatures. It's very important that we protect them. For this reason, I'm not only getting my OWLS for my librarian qualification, but I'm also getting an extra driver's license for a locomotive. I feel like this extra qualification, this extra driving qualification, will help me into being the best badass librarian I can be. So just to catch you up on where I am at the minute, I am pretty much halfway through. I'm a little over halfway through, which is okay. I'm sort of speeding through these. On the 16th, I think, of April, like sometime midway through this month, the sort of extra quarantine edition of Reading Rush kicks off, and I need to give that my full attention. So I'm pretty excited that I'm speeding my way through these OWLs. I needed to get, for my librarian qualification, Ancient Runes, Arithmetic, Defense Against the Dark Arts, History of Magic, Transfiguration, and then for my locomotive train driver's license, I needed to get Defense Against the Dark Arts and Muggle Studies. So I have currently knocked off 4 of these out of the 7, and they've all been delightful. It's been going very well. So I will just say that the reason this is going so fast is because I sort of went a bit overboard and decided that I just wanted to do these as audiobooks. I don't know why I decided that. I think quarantine and everything was just getting me down. And it was hard to focus really intensely on reading books for a really long period of time. But audiobooks seem to go in really well, and they're really livening up my day, like just doing everything like work, cooking, showering, blah, blah, with audiobooks going on in the background. It's like really, it's like the distraction I need, and it's going really well. So I think that's why I'm powering so intensely through them. The first one that I read was for my arithmetic qualification, and this was supposed to be a book that was outside of your favorite genre, and I went with Me by Elton John, because even though I read quite a lot of celebrity memoirs, I tend not to love them as much as I love other things. I'm weirdly addicted to how much I hate them, I think, is the problem. So it's a bit outside of the genre that I love most, so I was like, I'll go with this one. But in the end, it was delightful, okay? Elton John is so lovely. I think he has a reputation for being a bit of a shitbag, and I can understand why, because he was very honest in his autobiography about how in drug-fueled rages he's been a bit of a shitbag, and I can understand that, okay? But he's like, you know, older. He's sort of looking back on his life now. He's sober, you know, he's in AA, doesn't do drugs now. He's been married. He has kids, you know, he's at a point now where he can reflect on his life, you know, and be really honest with himself and with other people about the things that he has done that he regrets, you know, and those periods of his life when he was a shitbag, he regrets them. What I liked most about this particular autobiography is that it was so honest and so just like sort of accepting of things, you know, and like reflexive, is that the word? Like you reflect back on your life. Loads of the celebrity memoirs I've read recently, like the person has like a bit of a victim complex, and they have like a thing in their mind where they want you to think that they're a victim, but they don't want to say themselves that they're a victim. They want you to think that they don't think they're a victim while also thinking they're a victim. So I found that really annoying, whereas this isn't anything like that. Elton John's just like, I'm a cool guy most of the time. There were times in the past when I was a shitbag, and this is why, and I regret that. And he just sort of moves on, and he sort of says about all the things in his life that he loves now, and the people that he's closer to, and you know, he's just like full of life still as an old dude, and sort of able to look back on his life and like a wow, what a crazy ride. I can't believe I've been able to sort of live this sort of life sort of way. The thing that I didn't like so much about it, I think, is just specific to me, right? So I had the same problem with Daisy Jones and the Six, if you guys read that one. It's to do with, I don't give a shit about the music. I know, I wish I did, because I'm from Seattle, and people from Seattle are supposed to seriously give a shit about the music. Do you know what I mean? Anytime anyone sort of meets me and they find out that I'm from Seattle, they want to talk music to me, and I have to just stop them, you know, and be like, I don't want to disappoint you and like let you go on and on about the music for ages while you think that I care. I don't know anything about music. My musical tastes are roughly 1990s pop country, like roughly in that area, and doesn't really venture far outside of that area. And I don't know anything about like techniques or like behind the music or ways the music came to be the way the music is. Like, I don't really care about any of that stuff. So all of the parts of this book, this me book, that are a bit VH1 behind the music, do you know what I mean? Like the story of how songs came to be, and the story of you know, people who made the records and produced it, and sort of the deals that went on in the background and stuff like that. There was quite a lot of it, and I just don't care. Do you know what I mean? If you care about that, you will love this book, because there's loads of it, and like all of his songs. I do love Elton John songs, right? And I think if I cared a little bit more about how songs are made, I'd really be into that. But anyway, it sort of tells about his life, as you know. It's sort of like him growing up really poor in London, and all of his sort of like first gigs and things, where he used to sort of like go into nightclubs and play piano or whatever, and then there'd be like a riot and he'd have to escape out the window and stuff. There's loads of like all of the famous people he's met and hung out with, and sort of like just really crazy stories about his like drug fueled craziness, you know, like a couple times he like tried to kill himself, which sounds terrible and horrible, obviously, but the way he tells it is just a bit like, oh god, I was so attention seeking. Like, I don't know, like it's terrible, but he just laughs at everything, you know, like all the bad stuff in his life. He just sort of says, oh god, I was so ridiculous, like I just needed to calm down, you know, embrace the parts of my life that were amazing and just sit down. But also the audiobook I fully recommend. So Elton John reads the very beginning part and the very end part, but in the middle it's shit, I can see his face, Edgerton. So you know the movie that just came out about Elton John's life, Rocket Man. The guy in it who plays him, I'll like flash it big on the screen, like but anyway, it's read by that guy, and it's read really well. So I would 100% recommend this one. You know, even if you're not into celebrity memoirs, I would say, you know, it was a good ride. It was good. Anyway, because I finished that, I now have my Arithmetic Qualification. I got a very good grade in it. Okay, and now I can move on. I moved on then to my Muggle Studies one, which you were supposed to do a contemporary from the perspective of a Muggle. So I chose O.W.L.s by Emma Jane Unsworth. It's a bit Bridget Jonesy, right? So this girl, she lives in London. She's in her 30s, and like things aren't really going for her like she wants them to be going for her, like how she would have envisioned her life to generally be going at that point in her life. And it's sort of like funny, sort of like a dark humor, but I think Bridget Jones, like if you've ever read Bridget Jones, she's more of like a likable character than is this other girl in O.W.L.s. I think the one in this one is really neurotic, super extra neurotic, and really anxious about things, and niggles everyone a million times about how they think about things, and sort of just obsesses on things all the time. So while, you know, that's fair, that's her personality type, whatever, it can get just like a bit annoying. Like you just want to sort of say to her, move on girl, you know, like that's like, stop flogging a dead horse, okay, like just move on. Whereas with Bridget Jones, I think like you sort of like rooted for her. She was sort of the underdog that you wanted to root for, where I think I find with this one, I just like not rooting for her, because I don't know, I find her annoying. Loads of the things that happen to her are really funny, and I can sort of see like the humor in them. Sort of various problems with the guy that she was dating for ages. Something I also didn't like about it is that it like jumps around a lot in time, and it's hard to sort of keep up with. Do you know what I mean? So you'll sort of be in one section of it and sort of relating it to the section that was just before, and then immediately realize that actually it takes place way before then in a different time in her life. That was a bit hard to keep track of, especially on audiobook when there's not, you know, you can't visually see like markings in the page, you know, like big gaps and big like chapter headings and things like that that would indicate, you know, to you visually that something has happened in the timeline. But other than that, like I say, yeah, this one was okay. I'm on the fence about this one. Did anyone read this one? The next one, the third one that I finished, was for my Defense Against the Dark Arts qualification. So this was to do with Grindylows, who are little evil creatures that live in the sea. So the book had to be about the sea or the coast. So for this one, I've chosen Mudlarking by Laura Makelem. I loved this one. This one was so good, especially as an audiobook. So soothing, like the way that she talks about like the river and how it has like a life of its own and like the history of the river and everything. Anyway, okay, so this one is about a woman who lives in London, and she mudlarks on the Thames. So she like goes onto the foreshore of the Thames in London, and she sort of looks in the mud for various things that have been lost. People have been losing stuff in the Thames for thousands of years, you know, like medieval, Roman, like they've got sort of like Bronze Age civilizations and stuff. They're finding stuff in the river from them. Anyway, so she has sort of devoted years and years to becoming really good at this. Like she knows the tides really well of the Thames. She knows where she can sort of get into the river and have the longest amount of time with a low tide. She knows the places on the river that are likely to have the most kinds of stuff, like bottles always collect in one part of the river, things that are Tudor always collect in another part of the river. She knows loads of like the history of where things were on the river, sort of like different companies and palaces and things throughout time. She just like knows an absolute load about the Thames and sort of the process of mudlarking, which you can't do without a license, which is really interesting because they have to make sure that everyone who finds things on the Thames will report them to the British Museum and let the museum sort of decide if they're really important or not. Anyway, this mudlarking book was ridiculously interesting. I'd say one of my favorites for the whole year. Just a million super interesting things. Like there was this guy, O.W.L.s type. It's like a sort of font, O.W.L.s font, and it was in these sort of in actual print type, you know, with like actual letters as blocks. And this guy sort of just threw them all into the Thames over time. And now there's like type letters all the time in the river. Like people, there was like one guy who's spent his entire mudlarking career looking specifically for these tiles and thinks that he has the vast majority of them. But then this woman who's writing the book found one as well, and he was so pissed off at her. But anyway, there's just loads of really good stories like that. Like, I'm having a hard time focusing my thoughts. I think it's because I've been drinking, obviously. I apologize if this is just sort of like all over the place. But I feel like I'm getting my message across anyway, like which books are really good and why. What do you think? Like, if not, I should try to do this video tomorrow instead when my mind is like more settled. I don't know what's up with my head today. Anyway, so that was mudlarking. That was fantastic. That was Defense Against the Dark Arts. So I had to do 2 Defense Against the Dark Arts qualifications, one for my librarian qualification and also one for my locomotive train driver's license. So the other one that I've read to do with the coast is Mr. Midshipman Hornblower by C.S. Forster. Oh shit! So like these Hornblower ones, they're from the 30s. They're about this sailor in the British Navy. So anyone who's seen this like 90s TV series called Hornblower with Ewan Griffith, if you've not seen it, you should Google it right now. Like I'm actually going to link one of the episodes below because I think that you can get whole episodes on YouTube of this show. And it's just like really good old school adventure. Do you know what I mean? Like sort of like reading Treasure Island. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a book that's so much made up of cliches, you know, it's one that, like, the cliches have grown up around it, like, they sort of, like, became cliche after, do you know what I mean? But it's just, like, a really good, like, old school, like, get into an adventure sort of book. So this kid, this Hornblower kid, he starts out as a sailor at 17, and he's the son of a doctor, so, you know, he's, like, relatively well-to-do. And he's got good schooling and everything that. He's like really smart, but he's really shy. He doesn't really know anything about sailing. He sort of starts out really green and people really pick on him because he's so like naive. But over time, over the course of the book, and then there's loads of other books as well, like over the course of the whole series of the thing, he becomes like a really high ranking officer, and he like gets married, and he knows loads of stuff, and he has loads of adventures. Anyway, I really love the setting for these as well, because it's sort of like late 18th century, early 19th century British Navy setting, you know, so they're always battling France and Napoleon, or like some sort of like revolution, you know, aftermath related thing. And Hornblower always succeeds, always. Sometimes he's in a tight spot, okay, and he's got to use his wits to get out of a tight spot, but he always gets out of that tight spot. And I feel like in these times we need that, you know. But anyway, that is the 4th I've read so far. I still have 3 to go, and that is my History of Magic Qualification, which is a Witches and Wizards book, and I think I'm going to read Pinch of Magic for that one. And then also my Transfiguration Qualification, which is a book about shape-shifting, and for that one I think I'm going to read Gollum and the Genie. And then also my Ancient Runes Qualification, which you have to read a book with either a heart on the cover or a heart in the title. And I've been agonizing about this one, to be completely honest with you. I originally wanted America is Not of the Heart, but I was sort of like looking at it and I'm like, ooh, it seems really intense. Like, I need things that are going to be really lighthearted, okay? I need to be able to have a chill and a paper hat with like a fake wand and have a vodka and just not feel stupid about it, you know? Like, so I was thinking maybe instead Heartburn by Nora Ephron, but I'll decide and let you know. Right, okay, that is the end of that. I apologize if it was a bit crazy and a bit rambly. I promise my next one will be better because I'm gonna focus my mind. I'm gonna zen focus, maybe have some notes, you know, to sort of focus my thoughts. It's hard, I think, to focus your thoughts really intensely when it's an audiobook, because I don't know, I think I'm like quite a visual learner, so as I see things on a page, I don't know, I remember them more, or like I order them better in my mind or something. Like, my audiobook retention, I think, is maybe inferior to when I actually sort of read a physical book. Do you find that? Thank you for watching. If you have any comments about any of this stuff, any books that I've said about, any sort of like your ideas about the OWLS, various things, or your careers or whatever, please let me know. I'm trapped in my golden tower and I need to have like real conversation about things that are really important, like Harry Potter pretend careers. Okay, until next time, bye.